Welcome back, everyone. We are in the middle of day 2 here at the Intel Stream Masters in Cologne of 2015. Now, we have a tied series between QG and Fnatic. Perhaps not exactly what we expected, especially after a strong showing in Game 1. But what do we expect to change here in the picks and bans for Game 3? Anything that really stands out?
So, the problem here probably is that QG probably wants to ban the Alistar and Bard still for Noxiac, but they probably don't have the room to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see if Noxiac actually gets like one of his stronger champions where he can influence the game more, I think. And of course, Fiora has been like one of the more important picks because we've seen Gamso play top laner, like tanks, potato laners. And if the Fiora ban is there, then Gamso can actually maybe pull Sion off again.
Yeah, I sincerely think the big issue in Fnatic's draft was the Sion. Sion into Fiora, I still don't think it's a good matchup. Eventually, the big two questions we had coming into this when it comes to QG was the draft, and I feel that has been solved. And then the big question was Swift as well. And on Mundo, I felt like he performed. So the question still lies. I feel like Spirits should step away from the Nidalee because this game looked a lot more even. And then when the games look more even, the Nidalee is not going to have the same impact as she had in Game 1. So out of respect, I feel like he should let go of the Nidalee.
Yeah, and perhaps he will. Perhaps he was also just kind of testing those waters. But also then on the other side, how big was the Mundo? Like, let's say the Sion wasn't picked. Do you think that would have made all the difference? Because the Mundo still wasn't dying. Right? I mean, maybe then you both have a tank that doesn't die. Like maybe.
I feel like it's a question of like QG didn't really win through their win condition. It was eventually just 5v5 fights. what I saw they could do, which is probably the most consistent way of winning a game from QG's side, is send the Fiora into the split push because she reached that point where she destroys Sion. They didn't really need to force fights. They could just relax forward mid, just sit there with the Braum and just disengage and just clear the waves. And eventually Fiora's going to take those towers. But QG, they love to fight. Yeah, and it worked out.
Yeah, they kind of got the game they wanted or the style they wanted in the game. Papa, what about you? Any certain changes you want to see from either side, really, in the picks and bans?
I mean, the big question I'll raise against Fnatic is the thing we took away from Game 1, shot calling was smart. They played very well. What we took away from Game 2, and I guess both games are seeing the Sion, both games we're seeing the Nidalee. What else do Gamsu and Spirit have that they're comfortable to break out just a couple of days into their roster?
Yep, and we'll find out right now as we're seeing the picks and bans. And like you guys mentioned, the Bard definitely still coming out, but does QG have the leisure to ban out the Alistar afterwards? We'll have to find out as Fnatic wait on their third ban.
I feel like if Fnatic end up on Lulu again, I think they're going to sit comfortably because even though like the first game we saw the proper ban from QG, I feel like Lulu's strength is just keep showing us how powerful Lulu is, and I'm just waiting for a nerf already.
Probably like a Trundle ban here. Gonna be okay. Victor ban.
Oh, okay.
Getting Doinby off his comfort. Now, Cassidy and Victor, both big Doinby champions. He's also played the Lissandra in recent times. So when it comes to attacking a player, 3 mid lane bans coming through from Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, ban right now. It's like Lulu ban, okay. You can first pick Trundle here right now if you want to, if you put emphasis on that Trundle, and I think they will do that. Simply because Bard is banned. I mean, why not? You know, Trundle has been like a really good pick this tournament so far, and it's definitely good.
The big question then is the jungle once again. We've talked about the Bees and the Kindred, and both of them are open. Mundo is also open. I feel like that should be the priority for QG in their rotation here.
Mundo's pretty good. Still, we saw like he did well in all games he played, right? So probably gonna lock in the Nidalee again here for Fnatic. I wouldn't be too
think so?
Yeah.
You think we're just going to give it and say that
I'm surprised that Kindred is not more contested in this series. Kindred is so strong, and she's definitely like, she's a better version of Nidalee. She's also ranged, she does everything what Nidalee does, has really good dueling, and has like really good teamfight presence too. Yeah,
but you're right. I mean, Kindred was available last game.
And this particular game, remember, when you see the ultimate come down from Fiora, the grand challenge, just put down the Kindred ultimate, deny the healing field from coming out, deny a lot of the assassination potential. I just hope we don't see Nidalee Sion again because I think they're going to succumb to a lot of the same pressure if they go for those champions on the Fnatic side.
Now, what do you think about the priority on securing that Alistar for themselves when the Trundle was already picked? Do you think it was still just kind of a precautionary measure of Alistar, yeah, sure, we can play Alistar too. We also want to just make sure that you don't get that Alistar and rotate that Trundle somewhere else? Do you think that's valid?
That's valid, yeah. I mean, they could just pick Trundle top and give the Alistar to Fnatic if the Alistar fits into the team comp. So
One of the big things to take away is that because Alistar has percentage damage reduction, the Trundle ultimate doesn't actually really perform the same role against that particular champion. So it doesn't show anything in terms of draft, and also is a champion that deals well with the Trundle.
Thank you. Look in the mundo, man. Spirit.
Nope.
I feel like QG could have been punished there. Like, I was surprised they didn't go for the mundo in the first rotation, and they kind of just assumed and called the bluff of Fnatic, and they just went for the Nidalee again.
Yeah, it is a little surprising to see Spirit so adamant about the Nidalee despite taking one loss. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily it's bad or good, but you win one, you lose one. Maybe it's time to just switch things up just to throw a curveball at your enemies. Not going to see that this time around for Fnatic, though, and it is their last chance to secure a spot in the finals here at the Intel Extreme Masters.
I mean, I think it's just a matter of how they answer the Fiora right now. Like, what is Fnatic doing with their next two picks to just deny the same issue that they ran into last game where they could not answer the split push? And I think maybe that's their mindset going into this game that, okay, Fiora was the problem, Nidalee wasn't the problem. We just see what we can do to counter the split push from Fiora, and then just go with the same game plan as we had in game 1 and game 2, and then just win that. Based on confidence, probably.
All right, and it looks like we might not see a Mundo or a Kindred from QG's side either, going for the Rek'Sai.
Actually, I like Kalista, yeah.
I like Kalista a lot.
Really good, because even like the Trundle pillar, I mean, how does it work actually? Like, Kalista's like fine against Trundle, right?
Kalista is going to struggle in scenarios where she actually gets pillared because she gets slowed, and it's, of course, it's kind of hard to get away because she can't jump through it in a lot of cases.
The permanent terrain means that she can't kite in the same way with her mini jumps from her passive, so it is actually a bad situation for Kalista.
But like matchup-wise, I have to give the favor to the QG side. And with that in mind, it's just what we've been repeating all the time. Fnatic need a strong side of the map, and it has to be the strong pick into the Fiora.
All right, what's the left?
I think Shen, Malphite, or Renekton. Just why not?
Renekton would be really good here, I think.
Even Hecarim, Gamsu, we were talking about it earlier.
Okay.
He has played Hecarim in the past. I think it's something that can do well into the Fiora.
And there's that Malphite, probably going to be picked up. And the Rise, slipped through all the way, despite the contention on some of these other... Oh, okay, yeah.
Wombo combo.
All right, yeah, that works. It's a
Malphite
classic.
Orianna.
I mean, Season 2 all the way back. Orianna Malphite, that's something that, I mean, if you've played even in your own games, you're going to see that now and then come up.
I mean, you say that, Malphite Orianna and the bullet time coming through from Misfortune as well. It's not quite Curse of the Sad bullet time, but it's that's quite the wombo combo. But, you know, if you add some more tankings, Alistar, for example, can skip through here. They have a lot of interrupts on the side of QG for the bullet time. That's a lot invested in wombo combo, which often gets outscaled, or you just fail at once, and then your team comp really falls away in terms of effectiveness.
And as looking at QG's side, I was talking about what happened in the previous game where they won by team fighting, but their true win condition in proper conditions was simply doing the split push with 1-4 because Fiora was so far ahead. But QG has shown time and time again they just want to team fight. So it kind of makes sense with picking the Malphites and this composition that is revolved around team fights against the QG lineup.
Okay, but now with the LeBlanc coming in, don't you think that if QG plays it smartly, that they can still, within team fights, avoid getting all sucked in? I mean, sure, you might hit one, maybe two people, but if LeBlanc comes in from the flank and Kalista's, you know, activating her mini jumps properly, should be able to escape from the combo most of the time.
For sure, for sure. It's like if I kind of looked away from the team names and just looked at the actual drafts, then QG want to split up the map. But they've shown time and time again they just want to team fight all the time. But in this particular game, I feel like they really need to split up the map because otherwise they're going to get wombo comboed.
All right, well, old habits do die hard. We'll have to wait and find out if QG can escape from that trap they set up for themselves as we go into game number 3. Who's going to take the win 2-1 between Fnatic and QG? We'll find out right after this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters here in Cologne. We have a 1-1 series tied for the semifinal to see who makes it all the way there. QG just coming back with a big game, but this time, Froskerin, they have a very different composition.
Yeah, I don't want to quite call it a pick comp. I kind of want to echo what the Death said previously, that it's really about spreading out on the map. You have Fiora, so you have an excellent split push answer right there. And likewise, the mobility and the pick potential that a LeBlanc can open up, especially if she gets rolling. While on the other side, it's Wombo combo for Fnatic there. They're looking for the Malphite, the Oriole, on top of the bullet time. And here we are. This is it, who will decide the finalists for IEM Cologne.
DoinB, the man in the mid lane, looking to emulate Ryu from the other day.
Ryu had a great LeBlanc performance.
Yeah, he did. He LeBlanc'd the competition. Febivin, however, is going to be able to stand up to that with the Orianna. He's a very safe mid laner. Pretty much has been the gold standard for safe mid lane play, unless your name's Faker.
DoinB, of course, was slapped with 3 mid bans from Fnatic.
A lot of respect.
Yeah, but he pulls out the LeBlanc, which DoinB was a famous Korean streamer before he came over to the LPL, joined Chaogu Reapers about halfway through their season. Well known for his LeBlanc.
Swift is going to wander, but he will find
Did he get it?
Spirit with the ward. Not enough to get the damage out there. Spirit has really committed to this Nidalee, and we were surprised to not see the Mundo, but you know, to be fair, there is a Trundle in this game for the first time this series. Noxiac will taking the troll to the Rift this time.
And likewise, it looks like we're actually going to see another lane swap. This time not initiated by the QG Reapers, but initiated by Fnatic. That's 3 for 3 out of this series so far. And so far, it's been mostly a fast push strategy. We'll see if things mix up in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it got a little hectic in game number 1 for QG, and they just weren't able to really play out. But, you know, they got so much cleaner later on as DoinB starts off the aggressive maneuvers, trades a few auto attacks with Febivin. But it looks like, you're right, the double jungling is how it's going to go. Although with V, he's making his way up to the top, and they're not spotting anybody, so they know that something is up.
There's a lot of priority here to put this Fiora down and try to stall out her power spike as long as possible. See how Reckless and Noxiac take control of this lane.
Reckless moving forward very quickly to try and force V off the farm, so he should give him a bit of a hard time. The question is, does V go back to this double jungle? He might just do.
Well, he is going to be delayed for that, certainly, especially because Noxiac is also invading, making sure that he's figuring out where Swift is starting on the side of the map, giving that information to Spirit, although Spirit is going to be completing his blue buff here shortly. Ping goes down. QG Reapers know exactly where the enemy jungler is.
Yeah, now TNT is going to be getting some free farm in the bottom side, but again, Reckless and Noxiac have taken total control of this lane. They may look to push it in quickly with the double jungle. Spirit and Gamsu are bringing right now. They might send them up top in just a minute. Febivin's going in. He's got the shield down, but in comes V. The Ignite is on. They want to get a quick first blood, and they will do it, knocking him all about. 4 members on top of him, and that's first blood.
And
it goes over to V.
Brilliant about that, I'm glad that you underlined it, is that it went to V, the guy who's really suffering right now in that 2v1, forced out of his lane, does manage to put 400 gold into his back pocket. Meanwhile, Fnatic responds. So many resources of the QG Reapers were expended in mid, now on the bottom side of the map. They look to fast push the top side.
Yeah, 3 members, they should be able to do it. Reckless will make it rain to stop the minions up for just a second. But 4 members down on the bottom side, as you said, QG should be able to take out this tower and trade it even. They even had the option to go for mid, to be honest.
The other thing that I really want to point out is that Febivin did not expend his flash. Now, naturally, he could have tried to flash before everything came down. DoinB, of course, walking straight up right in his face to make sure that he could land the chain. But once he knew he was dead, he said, I'm going to save my summoners, going to come back to lane and just try to make the best out of this.
Gamsu's going to get all the XP from this, by the way, too. He's going to let the wave push back so he bounces, but he does take a couple tower shots on the backside of it. Meanwhile, QG will do the same thing, but this time they leave all 4 members there, and they will get a little bit of a split experience. So, another game that starts with a fast push in the top and bottom, but this time, some early action as Febivin found out firsthand.
The thing, though, is that the decisive shot calling after these towers fall has been a little bit lackluster for both teams. Yellowstar naturally not on the team anymore for Fnatic, although Noxiac looked fantastic, especially on high playmaking champions like his Alistar in game 1. Like Trundle. And QG, I mean, their early game, they pretty much just try to hang on for dear life, being a bit more aggressive this time around by finding that 3-man gank in the mid lane, but we'll see if the teams have kind of gotten more comfortable with the lane swap and where they go from here.
And, you know, that's nothing new for QG either. They're used to playing from behind in the early game, but they still managed to get themselves to a second-place LPL summer finish. I mean, it's just so crazy to see their meteoric rise up. They barely missed out on Worlds. And here at IEM Cologne, they're really proving that they can tangle with some of the best in the West.
I mean, there's obviously a condition there that this is not necessarily the dynasty. This is the rebuilding dynasty of
That's
Fnatic.
true.
It's not the semifinalists.
But it's still Fnatic, come on.
Ever beat
Still Febiven and
SKT.
Reckless. Yeah, well, you know, hey, you know all about that one. You cast that one. It has been some crazy results in the offseason, that's for sure. But now Fnatic, they're going to be pushing down on the bottom side with Spirit waiting in the wings. In case V comes back, he has had such a rough time trying to eke out a bit of farm. However, you know, his counterpart Gamsu has really been doing a lot more work in the jungle, so he hasn't had too much chance to get ahead of him.
And really the plan is the same for either team. Pick up your bot lane, rotate them to the free lanes, push down these towers, and start stacking up this global gold that the tower's going to give you, and give yourself a little bit of an edge into this mid-game. Mid-game at 13 minutes. How strange is that?
Yeah. Times they are a-changing, Frosk. Reckless should be able to polish off this tower, trying to let the wave bounce so it's denied as many minions as possible. And he will just barely finish it off.
Trundle's
Another
behind
tower.
him.
V is in a spot of trouble. Gonna
has
have to
pillar.
burn his flash. There's the pillar. Oh no, he's gonna get the parry. He's in tower range, but still, they can take him out. Noxiac tanks the shots, and it's Reckless that gets the kill.
And that's exactly what we were talking about. Noxiac does so well on these playmaking style champions. Yes, you can do that on Morgana, but it wasn't quite the same impact as his Alistar. Beautiful holding of the pillar right there. Great patience with the cooldown to secure that kill for sure after the flash had gone down.
Meanwhile, TNT will be able to follow up with some damage, but they're not looking to lay a trap out for Gamsu. So, even all across the board, we've only hit 6 minutes on the mark, but it's 2 towers to 2 as the fast push continues to be the name of this game. DoinB tries to get a little bit more damage on the mid lane. Feb have been playing very conservatively right now, especially after what happened within the first few minutes.
Naturally on that Orianna, it's really now the question, will V or DoinB on this LeBlanc, on this Fiora, get enough gold in this early game that they can really open up their, I don't want to call it a 4-1 split, I kind of want to call it a 1-3-1. That could possibly happen. Again, the mobility, the pick potential of LeBlanc to go into a side lane, the split push power of Fiora. If they're not able to take off, Fnatic should be able to take this in the 5v5.
Yeah, and it seems like a reversal of last game when you look at it that way, because QG were just able to continually use their oppressive scaling to just run around the map and force Fnatic to fight them when they didn't want to, even though Fnatic controlled the pace of a lot of that game. This time around, yeah, QG really need to get in the game a little bit earlier, and that's not necessarily their forte. However, they are compensating a bit for some of the early setbacks. V has grabbed a little bit more farm as he's been left alone on the bottom side, and when the objectives start coming in, that teleport's going to come in real handy. Immediately,
though, you have the armor coming out for Malphite to be expected. The itemization that I'm really curious to see on Malphite is I want to see the Iceborne Gauntlet in tandem with the Dead Man's Plate. It pretty much makes it impossible for anyone to get away from Malphite. But hold on, Febiven.
Yep.
Trading a little bit.
Noxiac was called upon for some help, so much that he left. The Pink Ward sitting with 1 health. That's always so sad when you're trying to clear it out. Just wait a minute, I got it.
I just love how the game has really changed to open up skirmishing, just because your primary vision that's going down is going to be either through trinkets or through pink wards themselves, and obviously it takes 5 hits to get through that pink ward. It opens up counterplay for the enemy team to try to fight over the wards. So you're getting a lot more 2v2s, a lot more 3v3s, as opposed to teams really stalling out for these 5v5s, although that's kind of been the name of this this series a bit.
Yeah, and then that's the QG Reapers really showing off their trademark too, and
well,
Fnatic
likewise,
kind of rising to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Fnatic have done a fantastic job in the 5v5, but again, this mid lane, Febiven, getting a little bit bullied and punished by DoinB's LeBlanc. Of course, that initial gank really hurting him in his control of this mid lane.
I hear these two go against Spirit and Swift. These guys, so much history between the two of them, and they keep butting heads quite literally and all across the jungle and river this whole series. Not a lot of solo kills between those two, but they really go for the throat when they target each other out in the fights.
And for once, it's nice to see that Spirit is finally confident enough to make these crazy invade plays. Naturally, he's always been an aggressive jungler.
Speaking of aggressive, there's a double shockwave right there. Febiven might be burning, however, Spirit is here, and he's going to look for the dive-in. Alistar comes around from the side, so TCT will make sure that QG will not have any more aggression put on them for now.
Really important that...
Or maybe not. Oh, early into the bullet time.
Really important that Swift ate the javelin toss right there to make sure that the execution Spirit couldn't find it on DoinB to pop that LeBlanc. So good protection from Swift.
Big wave pushed in by V on that bottom side, and it's only Gamsu there to defend it. He's not going to have a lot of wave clear on that Malphite. A lot of vision investment, though, and you can see the different parts of the map it's been utilized. Fnatic really good at that deep vision on this jungle side of QG in the top. QG a little bit more concerned with their own bottom side jungle, but They were also answering back, a little bit into the bottom side, looking for where Gamsu was going to be, where Spirit was going to be, excuse me. And, I'm not sure who this really favors because the Rift Herald has obviously been very important, but we have seen these teams prioritize that dragon control in this series more than we expected.
I think it's really just because, as I say, that Doinby is relentless. I mean, if you look at Fnatic's history or kind of their identity as a team in the EULCS, they were still a very big 5v5 or team fighting team. They were known for their team fight. Likewise, the QG Reapers in the LPL also known for the team fight. So it kind of makes sense that I don't think the Dragon was necessarily the priority over other objectives, but if given the chance, exactly, they'll use it to force the fight because they both feel confident there.
Yeah, speaking of confidence, Doinby just keeps on jumping in. Reckless is lucky he didn't lose any more health than he did there. Swift and TNT will cross pass in this jungle, spotted out once again by Fnatic. Doinby looking to go forward, gets one Sigil of Malice onto Febiven and backs away.
Things a little bit calm. I did want to quickly touch on the vision though, just because Noxiac's done a great job keeping that deep vision down on Swift, opening up choices for Fnatic. But again, touching on the fact that Spirit likes to go for the warding jungle item there, just because Nidalee doesn't innately build the sight stone, so offering a bit more protection there, and like you said, opening up the vision to take that dragon confidently.
Yep. 11 minutes on the board. QG actually have a gold lead though, and this is the first time this series we've really seen them attain that. But like you said, this composition that they've built, they really need to make plays across the map and in different places. The split push will lend itself to them, and that is a bit out of their comfort zone, to be frank.
Split push on QG?
Yeah.
Simply splitting up your resources, you are correct. The fact that QG Reapers have an insane kill participation across all 5 members. We've said it over and over again, not just in this series, but in their series yesterday against Dignitas. QG Reapers do not do anything alone. There's at least 4 or 5 people there.
Let's see if that ends up changing. Doinby definitely likes to make the solo plays, though. He's the outlier, I feel like, in this team, but he's also on a champion that really facilitates that in the LeBlanc. So far hasn't found a kill, but he has gotten ahead of Febiven on farm. The question is, will he be able to make a big enough impact before that Orianna becomes a massive threat?
Likewise, his itemization, picking up the CDR and looking for the Spooky Ghost. So the cool thing about the Spooky Ghost is its CDR is really only 10, which you're like, why would that be a good thing? Wouldn't you want more CDR? I mean, obviously you can only get up to, as I say it, Doinby.
Oh, force the flash. He's got the chains. And he backs away, though. Febiven actually won that trade.
There's no time to like break into the nitty-gritty of items. And
you should know this. It's
patch.
A Chinese team,
It just moves too quickly. It's not just a Chinese team. It's Fnatic. They love fighting. No, but the CDR boots are so cost efficient for the stat that they're giving right now, and it's beautiful, the Spooky Ghost with the CDR boots, because you don't push past 40%, which means that you're not spending gold for stats that you don't use. So I actually like the fact that it's, just the 10% CDR, especially for the item slot that it's using in your inventory, that item slot is going to CDR, mana regen, a slow, a GP10. Pretty ridiculous, very cost efficient for everything that you're getting. A lot of bang for your buck.
Well, Doinby is representing a pretty massive threat here, too. I mean, he's got his Ignite as well. He's definitely shown he's not afraid to press all the buttons as fast as he can when it comes down to, trying to get a kill pick. And, yeah, so it took a 4-man collapse to really take out Febiven, but that's not to say that when these fights do start, when the skirmishes do start, Reckless could be the next target on the menu. Spirit could be. Despite how aggressive he's able to play, if they can 100-0 him quickly and take him out of those fights, then it could be QG taking this one home.
And unfortunately, like Yamada-kana was talking about on the desk, Fnatic have been fumbling in their second game to find a really strong side of the map. In the first side, it was that bottom. Okay, I thought that was going to be okay because Noxiac was walking at the mid lane. I was like, he's totally fine. They're not going to get him. But with Febiven being put behind with the initial gank, Fnatic still quite haven't found, who are we focusing our attention to? Who's going to be our primary carry here? Are we just waiting for, everyone to have their ultimates up online with their initial power spike and to find that wombo combo? Or are we going to try to seek advantages elsewhere? And it seems to be kind of attempting to make these catches as we see them continually invade deep and try to make the most of their deep vision. But QG Reapers, they're just so cautious.
Yeah, I mean, this is a change for them. However, Doinby is able to dodge away over the traffic cone. This is definitely one of the more passive games we've seen them play because they don't want to get caught up by Fnatic. If they can get picks, they will go for them. But Fnatic are trying to bring more members to the party, and QG are not having any of it.
But at the same time, you have to understand why both these teams are being more cautious than we've seen in this series. I mean, this is it. This is the last game to determine the finalists. You don't want to blow it in the first 10 minutes on a crazy play.
Yeah, winner of this one will get a chance to fight for the right to go all the way to Katowice, Poland in the next year to be able to look for the title of IEM World Champion. I mean, that really means a lot, especially to a team like QG, this is their first international showing. They're such a new team. Fnatic, they are a dynasty, but they have a brand new roster themselves. Both these teams want that chance so bad, and this is the start for it, to try to be able to make your way to the finals. And I can see why they're playing more conservatively than they might.
I mean, it's funny that you talk about the QG Reapers. Yes, this team collectively only has one competitive split worth of experience. Fnatic, a brand new roster, just barely days old in terms of their debut. This actually being the first day. So I think it's kind of fair to say that both of them are kind of just figuring themselves out on this international stage together as a group.
Well, you know, we've already seen teams with only a day or two of experience be able to beat teams that have had a bit more than that. But I won't reopen that old one. So at the moment, though, what does QG really need to do? Because we talked about split pushing, we talked about moving around the map and skirmishing. What right now is their condition to not necessarily win the game, but to get a massive lead on Fnatic?
Well, right now it seems to be diving Feathervin repeatedly, as this guy is just eating up so much pressure. Hold on, though. I always want to dive into it, but they're just like, nope, gonna fight.
Yeah.
But I think it's exactly what they're doing, you know, continuously funneling gold into V's Fiora on the top side. You see the opened up CS discrepancy, Malphite sitting at 85, Fiora sitting at 94, and just making sure that they're not grouping up. The QG Reapers have not put themselves in a scenario where it's a 5v5 because you can't give Fnatic that power to use the Orianna Shockwave into the Unstoppable Force, into the bullet time.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that QG are the ones that are actually moving around the map a little bit more proactively than Fnatic. You see that ward coverage, where the wards are being placed, has changed from earlier on. Now that we're hitting the 15, 16-minute mark in that mid-game we talked about, later end of the mid-game, really. And it's QG that actually have eyes on where Fnatic are moving throughout their own jungle.
I'm going to call it right before mid-game because teams are kind of still ramping up to their initial power spikes. You see that, you know, Orianna's sitting on the Rod of Ages.
Oh, another chain. Febiven's a little low. TNT looking for Spirit.
Right,
There's the throw, and Spirit is in some trouble. Febiven's burning away. Shockwave will not hit anybody as DoinB stays nice and safe and was able to back away using his clone to cover his escape. But no, it's Gamsu that comes in and says, not today.
It turns 1 for 1, but unfortunately no one has transitioned this into any sort of objective, and it may turn into more as Swift's caught.
Yep, right between a traffic cone, but he will be able to bail out. Tanky enough on the Rex side. Dragon is out of the question with too many members of Fnatic there. Reckless and Spirit looking to push on the mid turret, and no one is there to stop them until now. Oh, do not pass.
No.
In comes Swift, gets the 3-man knockup. Another one for TCT. Reckless is knocked back in, and V will take him out. Now Gamsu's in some trouble. V will throw down the grand challenge, hits one vital, knocks another, looks for the third, doesn't get the healing AoE, but they don't need it. There we go. TNT will finish the job, and QG Reapers will be able to fire back on all cylinders.
And for a split second, it looks really good for Fnatic that they may be able to squeeze out a mid-tier tower here, but a fantastic flank from QG Reapers. Swift showing up, being the all-star of the team, and found a great, I think, 3- or 4-man knockup into a chain CC of the Alistar Pulverize.
And that is why he took the Rex side. We questioned it on the desk. We thought, what exactly is this going to accomplish? Maybe it's the mobility, maybe it's the fact that he can get in there and drop the wards when he needs to. Obviously, he's not going a Sightstone item, but this is exactly what it was there for. And he pulled it off spectacularly. QG with that first Dragon, with another tower in the mid, have established themselves the largest lead that they have held prior to just winning a game this whole series.
Prior to 20 minutes, pretty much. If there's any identity for the QG Reapers, we keep talking about their team fighting, which is well known in the LPL. It's that across the roster, they may not be all-stars, but they're all playmakers. Swift is a massive playmaker. DoinB is right in Febiven's face. He got the advantage due to the gank, and he just is continuing to push that relentlessly. And then TCT on the Alistar, finding that engaged sense for him. Fnatic do pick up the Rift Herald, so still in control of the objectives, but QG Reapers, they look great. They look probably the best that they have this entire series, and that causes alarm for Fnatic fans.
Well, this entire tournament, to be honest, I mean, they looked very shaky yesterday against Dignitas, and this is a complete turnaround for them. Yes, Fnatic will grab the Rift Herald, they get themselves another tower thanks to the extra push they were able to do, and the fact that it pretty much just needed a little soft breeze to blow over, but QG, they still have that gold lead. They have an even on tower score. They have a chance here to take this one home and fight for Katowice. We'll see if they're able to do it. 19 minutes and a half on the clock. Fnatic need to look for these fights.
I mean, effectively, we've had one 5v5, and unfortunately for Febvin, his shockwave didn't connect with anyone. But if that does connect with an unstoppable force, if the unstoppable force is used on more than just the LeBlanc to trade a 1-for-1 kill, there is still quite a big swing door for Fnatic.
Yep, Fnatic do need to counter push this, though. Reckless is sitting in the bot side, uncontested, farming away, but the rest of Fnatic are up in the top, looking to try and stop the push. Meanwhile, Febvin versus DoinB continues in the mid lane, and I think Febvin might be having a little bit of fear from this LeBlanc.
Poor Febvin. I feel like he's been ganked, you know, at least 3 or 4 times by multiple members.
They recognize the threat on this guy. I mean, there's a reason that we talk him up as one of the best mid laners that we have seen for some time. Clearly the best mid laner at this tournament.
To be very fair, though, and kind of put it into context, at least of Febvin's recent performance, yes, he was ganked a lot, but, you know, missing a shockwave like that.
Yeah. Well, and his last game on Azir wasn't flawless either. We had a lot of missed ultimates there, or a few missed ultimates at the very least. Not saying he's shaky, it's just that it's hard to play against this QG team. They are fast on their fingers.
See if they can calm down, reorganize themselves, coordinate their threats. Again, this is a composition. And
oh, DoinB looking for Spirit. He's going to heal up through the Ignite, but he is low.
This is a composition as a wombo combo. It's about, you know, making sure that you can stack and coordinate those cooldowns. And you do have a very large language barrier on the team in terms of Spirit, in terms of the fact that you have new members, in terms of the fact that, again, you don't have, or you're having to train more shot callers to come up. So see if they can pull it off, or if DoinB's just going to run rampant with this.
1-1-1.
Again, split up. Every time we look at the Xiaogu Reapers, they're all in completely different lanes. You got V in the bottom side. You have DoinB just kind of shadowing underneath. You know, if anyone's going to try to find a flank, he's going to try to hide in Fog of War.
Yeah.
Maybe see if he can get an execution or some sort of pick.
They've taken to the split push. I mean, that was the big question. Will they be able to pull it off with this composition? We talked about it a lot. And coming back to it, so far so good. Fnatic are pushing back, but the pressure is on their side. Look at the side wave control that QG have developed. That means they can get the wards in the top side jungle, the wards in the bottom side, grab themselves control of the Baron pit, and we might see them just be able to take that Baron out, which could give them a whole lot more power to their pushing.
It is very helpful that they have Kalista. That said, very dangerous to kind of funnel themselves into a small area like Baron against this Fnatic composition. Here comes the Unstoppable Force.
He's just by himself, though. He was waiting a minute, trying to push them out before the tower fell. They will save it, but no more damage can be followed up. And now with that cooldown noted by QG, they know they can maybe make a play, and they head towards this Baron. Will they start this with 2 members and look for 3?
One quick thing that I want to touch on is the itemization of Gamsu's Malphite here. We've seen some Malphites look for the Iceborne Gauntlet. This time around, Gamsu is looking for the Frozen Heart, so looking for more so just a tank Malphite to become that big front line to set up the line of scrimmage to survive a backline dive, as opposed to posing a threat to squishy champions.
Yeah.
That was a tongue twister.
But QG continue to clear out the vision around the Baron pit if they can, and they do manage to just sneakily polish off the bottom tier 2. That's courtesy of DoinB. So 4-3 is that scoreline. We are 23 minutes into the game. Gold lead's extended just a little bit. It's about 3,000 ahead for QG, and they're just farming their hearts out.
Again, though, in this meta, the onus is really on the team that's in the lead to be decisive, to close these games out with confidence. And QG Reapers, I mean, they've had the lead for a while now, being a little bit patient, obviously looking for their split push. Fnatic doing a good job not walking into any sort of trap, you know, stopping the bleeding. I like to call Orianna kind of a 3-item power spike AP mid. I feel like she really takes off once you have the death cap in your back pocket, as well as your penetration, your your void staff. So she is coming closer to that power spike there.
Yeah, but QG, they don't want to give them too many opportunities to get back into this game. Sending 4 members deep into the jungle here. They may just be able to catch Reckless off as he's stunned up by the spooky ghost or stopped up, but he will not get hit by the chains. However, in comes Swift around the side. DoinB dodges away. This is going to be Reckless going down. The AD carry from Fnatic. Didn't know what hit him. Another pickup for QG.
And unfortunately, just because QG have so much more control of this game, with their pressure, they're able to move their vision line forward. You said it yourself, you know, we slowly started seeing that creep out of Fnatic's favor more into QG, and Reckless just didn't have the vision to be that far forward. You really can't afford picks like that. It won't translate into the end of the game, but it will give them another free dragon.
They've got the map control on their side, and this is an evolving squad that QG has managed to play from the level of yesterday all the way up to where they are now. Fnatic have made mistakes, yes, but QG are playing so much better than what we saw from them yesterday.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I completely agree. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of errors, but it's much better than we saw against Dignitas yesterday. So see if they can continue with this upward trends, and if we're going to see some more tricks from this team. We talked about, adaptability not being in the LPL's favors, particularly not in QG's favor, but, opening themselves up into kind of a 1-3-1 style of split push, or separating themselves into skirmishes as a big 5v5 is a change of pace for them.
Well, and not even necessarily securing all the kills. Yes, they're getting a few here and there, that collapse on Reckless notwithstanding. They're focusing much more on the objectives. And they're doing it very well. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit easy when you can pretty much rend your way like that. But, Fnatic have answered back with some more vision control on the Baron, but QG are clearing out wherever they can. They have so much vision in the bottom side of the map. Yes, they focus a bit more on dragons than they maybe should have, but that won them a game last time around. They might just do it again.
I think at that point, it's really just, if the objective's free, take it. Sorry, seeing if they're going to engage there. Does force the flash. Here comes the teleport.
Yep, and Swift will get one knockup, but we had a couple more flashes out the back of that one. The flank from the Rek'Sai will not secure any kills, but it does secure a couple of summoners. TCT throws down the unstoppable or rather the unbreakable will. There's a lot of unsomethings, but Swift is in some trouble as he goes down. Febivin picks him up. Spirit takes a few shots of the Sigil of Malice, but all of a sudden, it's a 5v4, and Fnatic, this might be their time to shine.
Swift just put the KUG Reapers in an unfortunate situation, dove way too deep on Fnatic, and they rightfully picked him away, and now they're back in control of this mid lane. But they need to take care of the side waves.
This is what happens when you're allowing it. Spirit nearly goes down. That LeBlanc just gets so scary. In comes the bullet time. Do and B is gonna get chunked. V will have to flash away. TCG get thrown in by the Callista, but he might want to get out as soon as he does. Spirit goes forward. They take him down. TNT's hop, skipping, and jumping, but I don't think he can get out of here. Gonna have to go through the base gate, stealing a whole lot of damage as he goes. The mini wave in the bot is still pushing, but Fnatic have a chance to take out this inner turret.
And suddenly the QG Reapers' tendencies punish them. They group up as 5, and Fnatic demonstrate their composition. That was a beautiful shockwave on top of a bullet time, and Fnatic out-teamfight them and push down the mid-tier tower.
There is a chance here for the Reapers to be able to make a counterplay, but let's take a look at what just happened there.
It's not the wombo combo you quite expect. There's the bullet time, and there's the shockwave. Massive damage, just deletes so many of QG's members, and at that point, there's just nothing that they have left to defend this. Swift, so aggressive, constantly with that Zanya's hourglass as they walk past the tower and clean up the kills.
Yeah, so with the wave pushed back in the bottom, Fnatic are back in fighting form. Still a gold lead over to QG. They didn't manage to do much except clear vision outside of the Baron pit. But for the cost of an inner turret, Fnatic will be happy to take that trade any day of the week. Only 1,000 gold ahead on QG right now. 4-4 in towers in total, 2-1 in dragons, and this game is still anyone's.
QG cannot afford to make another mistake like that. Continue to spread out. Play with the split push.
Are Fnatic going to bait this?
Noxiac, again, being on the backside, having so much confidence with that Trundle, laying down deep vision. It's so unfortunate that both the teleports were used that V can't make the most out of his Fiora right now in a side lane.
Yeah, Fnatic are much more confident after that fight, I feel. They're pushing forward, they're clearing out the Rek'Sai tunnels, they're grabbing themselves vision. They just want to set up for this Baron because they know they have the faster 5v5, the stronger 5v5. They may not have Callista, but they've definitely got a way to take this down.
The saving grace for the QG Reapers right now is the fact that they have control of the Scuttle Crab. Join B again going forward.
Every time it's Febivin, if you can get him.
I know who the true carry is. Get this guy out of here.
Yeah. Reckless is got to watch out too, but Spirit was nearly taken out, and he just has been so incredibly aggressive in his debut for Fnatic today. And you can see why. I mean, it's netting them so many benefits. This is just such a different face of Fnatic than we've been used to seeing all throughout last year when it was Huni. That was the true carry, and Reignover, that was the facilitator. Yes, Gamsu is still making some big plays of his own accord, but he's playing a much more back role. The full tank Malphite that you were talking about earlier is not going to get kills so much on his own.
Fnatic, although falling back on what won them really game one, coming in here dominating and controlling all of this vision, forcing the QG Reapers to face check in blind. Of course, they have a bit more safety just because you have the tremor sense as well as the quick distortion in and out of Doinby that we've seen over and over again. But I mean, eventually someone's going to make a mistake. Either the QG Reapers are going to get a pick with Doinby, or someone's going to face check into certain disaster, and Fnatic's going to find the swing that they need for Baron.
Fnatic have definitely controlled the pace since that fight. As we approach the 30-minute mark, trying to keep QG clumped up so that they can execute these wombo combos.
Especially because they, stalled that out long enough that they amassed a massive wave on the top side, and it's going to give them a free tower.
Yeah, nothing QG can do about this one. Fnatic will be able to push it in. Grab themselves the tower lead. Another wave is building in the bottom side. They're going to go ahead and send Do and B down to deal with it, and V as well, but they have to be careful. They might lose this inhibitor turret on top of it.
If they die here as well, it could mean ending the game, so the QG Reapers have to be so cautious about any sort of engage here.
Yep. I think Fnatic are not going to try to push too hard. They will get some damage on the tower that will regen if they don't finish it off, and Do and B just keep stepping in, stepping out, trying to find a place to go and zero somebody out, but it's not happening just yet.
Pings, of course, go down to the bottom side of the map. Like you said, the fact that Fnatic stalled QG Reapers out long enough, delaying them over this red buff, that they got the top tier tower as well as the bottom tier wave. V finally responded to that.
We haven't seen too many big teleport plays this game, too, despite the fact that Gamsu coming in, teleport unstoppable force is a big potential thing. The same true of V. Really have been more about making these plays individually.
The thing is QG's composition, again, is really relying on being split up. So Fiora's teleport is being used so he has the opportunity to look for a split push, and Gamsu would rather be with his team and use his teleport just to make sure that Fiora can't take towers for free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's more of a defensive teleport as opposed to an offensive teleport.
Gamsu just hasn't had the opportunity to be able to do it. However, Fnatic will take the opportunity to grab themselves Dragon number 2. Noxiac gets stunned on the chains, but Do and B does not want to fight that out with too many Fnatic members close. He'll be backing away. Baron control, still pretty neutral at the moment. They just keep trading the vision, but I feel like QG cannot start this unless they can take a couple of key Fnatic players out.
Fnatic, though, have their defensive vision set up. Really, that's about the only vision that they have set up.
I think this game's going to go back one way or another because QG are going to try to push the side waves again.
This is going to be a single team fight. And I'm so excited that it's Fnatic versus the QG Reapers, just because both of these organizations have been known for their team fighting prowess. Obviously, Fnatic, a little bit of a different roster, but they've shown great so far in this series.
A lot more history, though.
Yeah. Certainly fits with the comp. I want the wombo combo. I'm so disappointed that we haven't had the unstoppable force on the shockwave.
It was very close. They just had a bit of a time offset. So QG, clear out the Scuttle Crab. Reckless still on the top side. Do and B looked to go over, grab the wall, but there was an instantaneous Trundle Pillar there. Spirit, this guy just has no fear.
It's got an hourglass.
He will get right up in your face and trade with you. And the Nidalee could fall off, but it's not like it's the huge dichotomy of the Nidalee Mundo matchup that we saw last game. I mean, this is a Rek'Sai. This is a much more utilitarian champion.
But you have to wonder if that's going to come back to bite them, since they found so much success on stalling out, especially because this game's going 32 minutes, 50 seconds. That would mean so much in terms of itemization for Mundo. To instead have the Rek'Sai for kind of a bit more consistent CC with the Unburrow, but Fnatic find themselves with better posturing on this mid lane, and they're starting to burn through the inhib.
Inhib turret about half its health right now, and QG looking to try and collapse while there's possibly a 1v1 between Gamsu and V in the bottom side. Fnatic will back off their 4 members at least for the time being, but they still are finding the poke, and QG just reacting a little slow.
They're trying to follow Fnatic cautiously. Obviously, they don't want to walk into a face check of some sort, but they also need to make sure that they don't allow Fnatic to simply flank V.
Yes, they absolutely do. And V is able to deal with Gamsu solo right now. He may not be able to kill him. There's just so much armor on this very tanky Malphite, but he can occupy his time.
Doesn't
Both of these guys
have
are
to kill him,
teleports.
just has to kill the tower.
Exactly. He's going to not get killed by him, I suppose I should say. But Fnatic are going to keep the pressure on in this mid and top, and they just keep clearing through the jungle. It's a ward war. This is a very much a war of attrition. Who can grab the territory and make sure that they can maintain vision at all times?
This is kind of best case scenario for the QG Reapers, and it's now about who's going to make that mistake first. You know, will Gamsu try to pull the trigger and look for the teleport flank play, use that teleport offensively as, say, that Swift trying to get in the back line?
I mean, he's tanky enough to be able to survive most of this, but really the key for QG here is being able to continually keep this pressure up on the bottom side. Keep Gamsu occupied, take pot shots at the turret, don't die, and it at worst can be a 4v4.
It's just so dangerous though, because if Gamsu does pull the trigger, if he's able to get the flank and suddenly they just mow over 4 members of the QG Reapers, yeah, they'd probably trade their inhibitor, but they could very easily end the game if the waves are positioned correctly.
Yeah, but that would have to mean V going down quick, though, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, you see this advantage he's built up in farm over Gamsu. Yeah, it's been a very different game for these two top laners. But this is a Fiora that could get quite scary in 1 or 2 items more.
I think he's already pretty scary, and it actually looks like Fnatic pulled the plug on this decision-making as they kind of re-spread out the resources, and
It's
QG
Baron
Reapers...
start.
This is risky.
Yeah, but can they burn it down in time? I mean, this is the question. V is actually hanging around. Are they going to bail off this Baron? There's a teleport coming in. They have to get out now
They
or
just
fully
need to
commit to
leave.
something. They need to get out of here. Doinb has a leap over the wall.
Just
TNT,
leave.
they're sticking around way too long here. This could be
Oh, he
trouble.
failed.
Oh, no, he's not able to get out of the pit. And that is going to be the wrong LeBlanc going down, fortunately, for QG.
But this is
now
the
the
play.
Baron's going.
This is the play that I was talking about, though. Don't even...
Oh! Whoa, Swift just stole it away. They actually managed to grab themselves the Baron on this one. No way can they win this fight. It's going to be absolutely insane as V comes in around the backside. Shockwave lands on TCT, but he's pulled in by the Kalista. V is trying to bail out. Amazingly, no one from QG have died. As I say it, TCT goes down, but 1 member for the Baron, that's worth.
I don't think the teleport was worth. Yes, they get the Baron still, and they might get more. Doinb, just W. There you go. What? Why did they even pull V? Just keep them occupied. You had a wave coming in behind Fiora. She's going to melt through these towers. You could have taken the inhib. I don't know. I'm not sold on the fact that V teleported there. Obviously, Swift comes up huge, finds the Baron steal, and Fnatic are now trying to recall and get in position to save the rest of their base. I think QG could have gotten more there.
They absolutely could have. However, V is able to get himself another turret on the inside, looking for an inhibitor turret as Swift backs away. TNT goes a little too far forward. He's going to back away along with Doinb. Doinb actually goes right back in, looks for Reckless, but he won't find him. This game has turned on its head. 36.5 minutes in, those death timers are way too long for Crossguard, and Swift is going for it. He gets the knock-up on 3, but he'll have to back away. There's no follow-up available except for Doinb, looking to assassinate Gamsu here as he unstoppable forces away just to stop the chains.
But again, V is mispostured, and QG, they have so much pressure, they have so much momentum, but this Fiora, she could be taking towers right now, she could be taking inhibitors right now with the amount of resources that Doinb is eating up, the fact that he's chasing 4 members of Fnatic away.
Yeah, it's a tense moment for both of these guys. Fnatic, they should have, by all rights, had that Baron, but they allowed Swift to come in the back and seal it.
I mean,
V teleporting, though, it lost them that inhibitor.
All QG Reapers had to do was just survive right there. Now, obviously, you don't want to give away for Baron for free, so it's fantastic that Swift got the steal there, but I mean, effectively, you're trading the Baron for possibly a Nexus tower, at least, because Fiora's going to push so quickly. I do not agree with that teleport at all. I think that's 2 instances in a row where V's positioning really lost a lot of momentum for the QG Reapers, but they are definitely still in control of the game because they have the Baron, because they have the gold lead.
Yeah, I mean, and that's those tendencies you're talking about. Maybe they're thinking, okay, we're just gonna hang back. We're gonna play side push and everything. But then all of a sudden, Baron plays happen and then just instant kinks in. I'm teleported in, boys. Let's do this. So unfortunately for them, they haven't managed to break the base. But they do have a Nexus or an inhibitor turret down, and they're on inhibitor turret in the middle. Fnatic are definitely on the back foot here as QG have amassed about a 4K gold lead, and they still are sitting on this Baron buff.
I mean, that said, like you said, the death timers are so punishing at this point in the game. 1 wombo combo. The gold lead is still very close, 62 to 66. Even though that seems larger, I mean, at this point, when you have that much gold, you've got so many items. It just takes 1 wombo combo. Fnatic can easily run this back up and start evening things out, possibly win the game if everything's postured correctly.
Yeah, that requires QG to be grouping up, though, which we've seen a couple of times, not throughout this game too often. But at 38 minutes, I mean,
They can't help themselves.
We're
They
at
have
one of
to
the
group.
longest games. We're at one of the longest games in this tournament now, by far. And everything pretty much depends on what the next fight, if there is a next fight, and not just a several scattered skirmishes really look like.
I think it's
3
fair to
members of
say
Fnatic in this brush, too.
that this is a one-fight game.
And it has been for about 10 minutes, to be fair.
But I mean...
Give me 8, come on.
Sure.
There we go. I got it. Second try. V's going to keep the split push up, though. Like, they have to send more than 1 member to deal because Gamsu can't clear these waves fast enough.
And just look at the itemization across this Fiora right now. V is massive. If he gets a hold of any of these structures, if any of these players, he's going to melt them. But he has to be very careful. I mean, he's pushed very far forward. If he's killed here, the QG Reapers have nothing. They're not in place to respond with anything. Like, no one's in, you know, they can't trade any sort of objective.
I mean, that's why these wards are so important in the jungle. They keep throwing down the blue trinkets and making sure that V's behind is pretty much covered. So he's staying pretty deep, but Noxiac is actually going up around the side just to get some vision of his own. You know, we talked about Fifth Dragon's never a reality. Well, you know, we got 3-2 right now. If this game keeps going and nobody fights, it just might happen.
I really like how safe it is to ward on Trundle with his pillar.
Like that?
Yeah.
Well, not ward, but
No, exactly.
drop a combo.
Like, because look, Noxiac, I mean, he just effectively walked out into river. He could easily get picked off, but it's just, you know, it's so safe for Trundle. He throws his pillar out. He's got his frozen domain, so he can speed himself up back to safety.
He looks a lot more comfortable than he did in the Morgana, for sure. And clearing the wave in the top does mean that V will be able to try and trade and clear out in the bottom. A wave of minions are there. V's taking more damage from Gamsu, but can he realistically take him out? He needs members to come here. And
The
as he
Thorn
dashes
Mail.
forward, this could be some trouble. Spirit's on the hunt. The slowdown from the Q. The spear connects. He can keep the chase on, but in comes TCT. The parry comes in. The unstoppable force. And now the knock away from TCT. They look for Spirit. Grand challenge is issued, but V backs away from it at the last second. And TCT may give his life for his top laner. But while this is all happening, QG pushing in the mid, QG pushing in the top. Is it all a distraction? TCT flashes away, and the switcheroo is accomplished.
I hate to talk bad, but nothing is happening in these side lanes. They effectively killed Reckless and walked in between the two towers. And instead of trading for sure on a tower, QG traded misfortune for their posture on the map. They finally have consolidated their sources and take the objective. But again, they fumble the execution of what was clearly an advantage.
Swift takes a little bit more damage. Nonetheless, despite the fact that they have made some mistakes here, QG are looking to open up this base in a big way. Inhibitor in the bottom will get taken down. Fnatic are backpedaling into their base. The gold lead starting to spiral out of control. QG are going to back away after 2 inhibitors have been taken, but they couldn't finish this game off here. At 41 minutes in, this game is still balanced on a knife's edge.
Just so sloppily played by the QG Reapers here, though. So while Fiora is being chased by pretty much every single member of Fnatic, they get the pick on Reckless, but because they're in between towers, they haven't postured the waves, it doesn't mean as much as it should.
6-6 in kill. I mean, I can't believe this game has gone 42 minutes and we've 6-6. With the QG Reapers in it, there's nothing normal about this game, Frost.
Everyone's nervous. I mean, this is, whoever wins this goes into the finals against either Ever or H2K.
Yeah. This is definitely a tense game. I mean, Fnatic's first showing with their new roster. They've gone 1-1 against QG. QG getting their first international experience, but only after a year of playing together, and half of that was in the LSPL. So
They have 1 split of competitive experience. That said, you know, players like Noxiac don't have as much competitive experience.
it's true. He's getting it now, that's for sure.
Not having pretty much any competitive experience together. So again, it's QG Reapers. If they happen to beat Fnatic here, you can't make the statement, oh, you know, QG Reapers, they beat Fnatic. They beat Fnatic with a very specific condition.
Well, what they're doing right now is adapting so well to their composition comparatively to what we saw them do in the picks and bans and earlier on in this tournament. Yes, they won their second game with a little bit more team fighting, a lot of scaling, and now they're playing very well in this split push comp. Just all they need to do, buy time on the Baron, boys. Let the minions in the bottom take care of it, and let the minions win the game. That doesn't sound like QG that we know and love, but this is a QG that is evolving on the fly.
Being very patient. Gamsu does have his teleport, very important to notice. And again, with the Callista, as soon as you have those Ren stacks, you have so much Baron control. Here comes
They
the
don't want to
teleport.
take it. Force the teleport. They've still
Swift
got
on the
minions
other
in the
side.
bottom. Absolutely. Bail out. Fnatic, they're going to go for this as the Baron did not reset. But does that mean that QG try to contest this one? We saw one Miracle Steal earlier. The Baron's going to take a while to go through. Do they give this one up? They're just going to chase him away.
Swift is completely split up from his team right now. He needs to get on the same side. At this point, just walk around the back of the...
This is so
They're
important for
stalling and they're
QG.
letting Fnatic take as much Baron damage as possible. There's no need to enter the pit just quite yet until we're closer with the health bar. They have the vision. They understand what its health is at.
Noxiac peels off. He looks for TCT. There's the unbreakable force. There, Swift is going in, gets the knock-up. That means TCT can come in as well. The Wombo combo will not connect the way they wanted it to. TCT and the rest of the team leading the charge to try and take down Fnatic. Fnatic does not go down. It's only Reckless after Gonsu. That's going to be it. It's an ace for QG Reapers.
And with that, they're going to storm down the mid lane, and this is going to be the QG Reapers going to the finals of IEM, their very first international event, and they force the surrender.
45 minutes just about on the clock. The QG Reapers take down Fnatic in a spectacular last skirmish.
We said decision-making. You know, we finally saw this. Fnatic game one, they come out, they look explosive. Gamsu is great, Noxiac's making crazy plays, Spirit is being the Spirit that we knew and loved. Fabivin, super strong player. Coming to game two, suddenly you start seeing those cracks in the armor. It's not as decisive, you know. We knew that shot calling was going to be an issue. Fabivin said, Reckless and I are stepping up. We're going to fill the shoes that Yellow Star left behind. It carries over into game three, and they're just going on too long. QG Reapers, they have one mode. It's late game team fighting. And even on a composition where you want to split up, where you don't want to be grouped up, it's a single 5v5 over in a Baron pit at, 45 minutes in the game that decides their fate into the IEM Cologne finals.
It comes down to that execution. And it is pretty ironic that with a split pushing comp, QG does win the game off a team fight.
That said, I don't think Fnatic fans should be disappointed. This new roster showed so much promise in this series. Noxiac made some great plays, Gamsu looked fantastic, and Spirit looks on form.
I would argue that this whole team showed a lot of spirit. They really played well together, considering how new they all are. Noxiac has a lot to be proud about on his engaged champions. He looked absolutely fantastic. Fabivin, despite a few misplays, looked like his old self. And then, of course, Gamsu and Spirit, they really worked well together.
I mean, I feel like it was communication and kind of decision-making issues that really plagued Fnatic. Obviously, not being able to organize their 5v5 Wombo combo comp that they really desperately needed. So maybe the language barrier is playing into some effect there. It's really hard to say.
But shot calling, too. I mean, that's kind of to be expected to start this one out.
Exactly. I think it's just decision-making. On the other side, so fantastic to see the QG Reapers kind of open up a different style, manage to pull themselves together and to take down a pretty tough team. I mean, Fnatic going into this, they were one of the favorites to win the tournament alongside the superstar roster like H2K, and they could find themselves across from them if they managed to take down Ever.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a massive surprise. I think a lot of people maybe weren't even giving QG a chance to beat out Dignitas. It was a very close series, just like this one, but for very different reasons. Dignitas, a much weaker team on paper, were not really able to take advantage of the weaknesses that QG showed. Today, it looked like a completely different team. We talked about yesterday how they didn't adapt to the meta particularly well. They didn't seem to really know what picks were really strong and just kind of went with what worked, possibly off scrims, not really sure. But this time around, they looked like what they were doing in the LPL all summer.
It goes back to the idea that, QG Reapers at this tournament, they're just excited to be here. This is a massive learning experience. Going up against a caliber of team like Fnatic, feeling out and getting this international competition to figure out, what are the picks that are working more so this meta? How can we adjust ourselves? We've seen the adaptation. I hope that we can see more of it. They're going to especially need that if they want to become IEM Cologne champions. But so far, like you said, they're just ramping up and they're looking better day after day.
Yeah, I'm really, really impressed with when they turned the switch on, what they were able to do. Still, as you mentioned, though, mistakes were made, and that's something that you can't necessarily do going forward. It doesn't matter if they face off against Ever or H2K in the finals. They're still going to have to tighten up those nuts and bolts and work a little bit closer together as a team. But I like the different sides they're showing. I like the split push composition. So fantastic work for them. But for now, we're going to go ahead and send it stage side where we got an interview all ready to go.
Thank you so much, guys. That was an absolute series, as promised, a cracker right here. First off, V, congratulations. You got to be feeling pretty great right now.
就是你现在感觉是不是很兴奋？
对，因为毕竟是第一把输了，然后后面连翻2把，感觉特别兴奋吧。
So yeah, of course, I'm definitely very happy right now. We lost our first game, but we managed to bring it back in the second and third game.
Now, it seemed in that second game that the Fiora pick seemed a little bit of a risky one, but it seemed that it paid off, that it kind of changed the momentum of the game. How did you see that?
因为我这2把选菲欧娜可能是比较针对蒙多这个英雄吧。我觉得菲欧娜比较克制蒙多，但是又不想让对面选到蒙多，我们这边选不到菲欧娜，所以才选的。
So actually we used Fiora to counter Mundo. 然后你可不可以把最后两句再说一遍？对不起，我没听真。
就是因为不想让对面选到蒙多，然后对面又选到菲欧娜，然后蒙多就可以很肉，打不死。
Okay, so yeah, so it ended up happening that they ended up choosing Mundo, and then we ended up getting Fiora, and Mundo turned out to be a really tanky champion, and yeah, it ended up turning out that way, yeah.
Well, obviously, coming into this game, there was a lot of build-up around Fnatic, this new team, but it didn't seem to affect you guys. You kind of you powered on. Were you thinking about that? Was that playing in your mind, this new Fnatic team?
就是我刚才给你说的。
就是说我们打 Fnatic 的话，我觉得在赛前我觉得算是5-5开上这个未知数嘛，但是当打赢的那一刻，觉得特别的兴奋。
Right, so 你赛前没有想太多，对不对？对不起，可不可以再说第一句？我没听真。
就是赛前的话，我们对阵 Fnatic， 我也不知道我们胜率是比较高还是比较低，然后觉得是个未知数嘛。
So we didn't know actually how to think before the game. We didn't know if we would win or lose, but then we ended up really happy at the end because we ended up winning.
Absolutely, I can imagine that. Now, one more game, you get that trophy, and you're on your way to Katowice. Are you thinking about that? Is that playing into your mind at all?
就是你下一场就是总决赛，你赢了就可以去 IEM 卡特维茨。你对这有什么想法？给我们分析一下好吗？
挺希望能拿下这次比赛的冠军嘛，因为更希望与更强的战队在总决赛上交手。
Okay, so we're just hoping we win this tournament, and if we go on to the next one, then we get to face a lot stronger opponents.
Well, I absolutely thank you so much for your time. Well done. I know these guys are very supportive of you. For now, I'm sure the guys over at the desk, led by Choba, are going to break that all down. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Sean. And finally, it pays off all that sandbagging from QG, and they get their victory and move on to the finals of the Intel Extreme Master Cologne. A long time coming. But all jokes aside, let's give credit where credit is due. They've definitely brushed some things up. I mean, game one, we said, all right, pick some bands, look a little better. Still didn't get the win. But then the way they played, and especially in that game 3, they had a lot of good choices to make.
It is looking so different from the games we saw in the first day. QG, even in the series, like in the second game, I was like, okay, they went for the team fight when they had the split push conversation with the Fiora. It worked out. And in this game, they pulled off a wonderful 1-3-1. Avoided the team fights effectively. There was this one point where Fnatic actually managed to get the 5v5 going on during the mid game, but eventually they got the pressure they needed. They got the inhibitors open, and eventually Fnatic was in this position where they had to go for the Baron because there's super minions knocking at the door of the Nexus.
And Yamato complained in game 2 that they had clear win conditions, kind of avoided those, and QG just won with the brute force team fights. This game, however, as you mentioned, they went for the 1-3-1. They were against Malphite, Orianna, Misfortune. That's all about Wombo. They avoided the Wombo. Okay, some of the decision-making in the late game, you know, teleporting to Baron when they could have got an inhibitor. It could have been cleaner, but they showed that game-on-game improvement. And now 6 games into their IEM Cologne run, they're in the finals, and they're looking better, much, much better than when they started.
I mean, of course, I think Fiora has been like the champion for QG that is doing all the work here, just setting up the split push. And I wonder if we can expect the Fiora ban maybe in the finals. And then, of course, we have to see if a team comes in a tournament with one strategy that works out for them. Some of the teams might even not have prepared a second strategy, so we have to see if they are able to play a different style. Maybe go back to their team fighting and then beat teams at their own game.
Yeah, I mean, to be, of course, fair, like we heard Pyra mention it towards the end, it's a little bit ironic they still won off of a team fight at the end, but maybe that's the benefit. The fact that they are so used to team fighting is that as long as they can split push long enough, they win that one team fight, who's to complain?
It is like, to be fair, in this situation, it was kind of all or nothing call from Fnatic. They had 2 inhibitors, and usually when 2 inhibitors are down, I think the win ratio is like 98% or something. Right. It's like an absurd number. You have to go for a crazy call. Yeah. If you're tanking the Nasher, you're going to end up in a position where the enemy team gets the concave. And in a concave, you're not going to get wombo combo, as we've talked about, and eventually you're going to lose if the enemy team pulls off the right decision.
Yeah, so, I mean, Fnatic had to make that choice, but QG reacted very well. went outside of the Baron pit and then got the fight they wanted. Before we move on, though, let's talk about Fnatic just a little bit. As the commentators were mentioning, this doesn't mean all hope is lost. I mean, Game 1 still looked brilliant, and now that you look at it in hindsight, you got to think, okay, this also is, you could say, maybe an unexpected result because the lineup is so new.
I mean, yeah, they have 2 or 3 days of practice together, and it would be like a bit too much to demand for them that they just go through this tournament, no problems. I think their communication and how everything worked out was like a sign for like Fnatic fans in 2016 that this team is going to be fine anyway. Once they figure out stuff, communication-wise, there should not be no problem. Shot calling seems to be there. And of course, you have like Spirit and Noxiac, the new players, are really good mechanical. And yeah, I don't think Fnatic has anything to worry about. It's like, of course, they lost. It's kind of sad, but
yeah,
they have an entire LCS season.
It is like,
them, so.
looking at Fnatic still, it's like, I feel, what I'm excited about is the fact that they're going to be able to play around the bot lane. It's going to be a very, very different Fnatic. And in terms of broad strategy and like the table of competition that is brewing in Europe now and all over the world, I feel like having this diversity is going to be very, very key on the world stage and also in the European LCS.
Yeah, so some things to look forward to for Fnatic, but of course for QG fans, a lot to look forward to for tomorrow as they move on to the finals. If you happen to miss that game or any other moments so far this weekend, don't forget you can download the Score Esports app from the iOS App Store or Google Play to catch up with all the stats, all the news, and all the scores from the matches, and they'll keep you updated on all the action this weekend. We'll be back after a short break with the next match here at the IntelliStream Masters.